Reimagining Success, episode 257. You're listening to the Reimagining Success podcast, where we help you design a business and a life that allows you freedom from the 9 to 5. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg, ex-corporate good girl, now a business mentor and coach, author, mum of 2, and I'm here to help you create more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. Now let's get started with redefining success outside of the 9 to 5. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest interview. I'm here with Kerri Burchill, who's coming to us live from Texas, where the weather, I hear, is rather warmer than it is here in the UK. Welcome, Kerri, and thanks so much for your time today.
My pleasure, Anna. Great to be here.
Well, first, my question is always, can you tell us what you were doing in your previous life and career, and what are you doing today?
Yeah, great question. So the skinny version is that my partner and I in our 30s felt like our life was a little too comfortable. I do not have the ability to have kids. And so with that comes obviously some disappointment and some freedom. And so I applied for a principalship because I was in education at the time. I applied for a principalship in a NATO base in the Netherlands. And he applied for med school, and we just kind of said, let's roll with whatever happens. So the long story short is I did not get the job. He started med school at 39. And that took us from Canada, where we lived, into New York City, Detroit, Baltimore. And then we ended up starting to practice. We did med school and we started to practice in Southern Illinois, which is a rural setting, not a great fit. But that transition took me out of healthcare. I did education all the way through med school and then transitioned into healthcare because he said to the new hospitals where he was working, I'm not signing a contract with you unless you find meaningful employment for my partner. Because of course we'd moved to the States. I didn't have a green card yet. Visas were an issue. And I'm like, oh, stop. We're broke. I'll find something. Anyway, so a healthcare company hired me and I was their only organizational development leader. And that really transitioned me into corporate. But then I found myself so frustrated with just the pace of change and the openness of the organization, and really in some ways just a misalignment with some of the values, that we ended up moving to Texas. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to try this entrepreneur thing 100% on my own and lean into it. And so I've been on my own for a couple of years. I incorporated in 2018, but I've been on my own for 2 years. And man, I wish I did it sooner. Yeah.
Love it. And I have to say, so coming back to your 30s, the epiphany, I suppose, what can you dig into that a little bit more? What was it that made you both realize together?
We really, and my sister says she was actually traveling for work and was staying at our house, and she remembers being there for the initial conversation in the kitchen. And our conversation really, Anna, was just saying I don't want to be this comfortable because we aren't giving back in ways that we felt we could, kind of that social responsibility. So again, that not having kids thing, we have some freedoms. And with that, I think, in my perspective anyway, some responsibility to sort of give and help and contribute, however that looks. And so we just didn't want to hit the ceiling, which we anticipated really by the end of our 30s. I'd be a principal, maybe an area director, could be a superintendent by my 40s. And what difference was that being an administrator at that level versus I was assistant principal at the time? Just where's the give back, right? Where was the opportunity to really help others thrive? And so that was the stirring in our belly that had us change things up.
I love that. It sounds very generous and selfless, and a lot of us make these decisions, although we all say, and every coach says, I want to help people. I think certainly for me, it was a very selfish decision to quit my job and start my own business. So it's really beautiful to hear, that you were really thinking about that responsibility, as you said, to give back. How did you? Sorry, go ahead.
That's just the joy, right? That's the joy of the work, is the giving back.
I love it. And I see in you that's true, and that's what you mean. So I guess, how did you come up with the exact way in which you could give back? It sounded like it was quite organic in terms of your husband's work and moving and so on. How have you arrived where you are today in terms of what you're doing now to help people?
Well, the real grind was for me when I was in that healthcare role, where I wanted to help people, and I was serving the leaders. I had started a leadership academy, doing some leadership development, but there was this grind between what the leaders wanted to do and what the organization was ready to do, this disconnect. And despite everyone's best efforts, the group of leaders in tandem with the organization could just not get in sync. And I found myself more and more frustrated with that disconnect. And so I incorporated, because I knew that I needed to be in front of organizations and leaders that were ready to get in synchrony, get in sync. And that showed me that I had something that I could help people with more than just a traditional 9 to 5 sort of environment where you're fitting and trying to navigate some of those politics or hidden agendas or whatever the things were that I was bumping up in healthcare. And then when I incorporated and just did a little bit on the side, I saw that I could be invited to work and serve with people that were ready to do the work, the vulnerability, the deep digging, the questioning old practices, the unlearning. And I found the negative cloud that I had sort of over my head in the healthcare setting, frustrated with the disconnect where I didn't feel like I was having the impact that I wanted to have. When I did the little gigs on the side, I'm like, this is so much fun. This is the right work. I can sort of peel off some of that, the corporate stuff that is so weighty. And so that helped me see where people wanted to thrive, what I could do to sort of align with their work. And then it just got momentum from there.
I love that. And for those listening, I think we're talking a lot about running, as we record this, a niching workshop this week. And I think we talk a lot about where to focus and so on. And unfortunately, I think we make it really difficult for ourselves going after people who don't want to be helped. They don't know they have a problem. If they do, they don't want a solution. They can't pay for this, So I love that idea of actually going where there's energy. And it reminds me of when I was in my final corporate marketing role. I was in digital marketing. And I thought naively, as an ambassador for digital, I wanted to deploy it to everybody. And everybody should invest and everybody should do all these things. And of course, that wasn't the case. And what I realized was more effective was to find the people who were forward thinking and pioneering enough to recognize that this is an incredible opportunity, partner with them, do amazing things. And then everybody else saw, oh, wow, that's a good case study. We should probably do that too. And then it rolled out. So I think it's an important insight for people choosing where to focus in their business, that please go where people need you and want you. And again, it's selfless because they want to be helped, but it's also selfish because you're actually enjoying it. As you said, you're getting the joy and the fulfillment and making the impact you want to make.
Yeah. And I don't know what your philosophy is on niching. I know that I joined a marketing group when I sort of first went out on my own, because I found myself what I call shotgunning. Like I was doing a bunch of everything and nothing really grabbing. And their kind of promotion around niching was to get super narrow. And I just found myself, that was like square peg round hole. And really to just say, I think my tagline now is something like, I help leaders and teams in messy, dynamic situations to slow down, to go fast and achieve their ambitious goals. And so when you think of messy, dynamic situations, that itself is a niche. But I have police departments and manufacturing teams and healthcare and HR, and my niche is not very niched if you think of industry. But gosh, it is with those leaders that are finding themselves in messy, dynamic situations. So it's interesting.
I think that's really common that we don't. If we're, I like to think of us as a sort of as a Renaissance woman, and we're multi-potentialites, multi-passionate, whatever. And I actually believe it's the strength. And one of the reasons why, as a solopreneur, we can exactly do that, because if we had a business where we had teams of people going out, of course they need to know this is the kind of organization you're going to contact them, and this is the steps you need to follow. But the beauty of you being you is that you can what messy organizations means, which interactions give you joy, right? So you can absolutely, that is 100% niche enough. And you also have a niche in terms of the solution you're bringing and the problems you're helping them with, right? So it's not just, okay, I work with corporates, this size company, and and actually, it's much more nuanced than that, but also very clear to you who you want to work with and if it's right or wrong. And I think often we don't trust our intuition, and never have I gone, oh, I wish I hadn't listened to my intuition, because I always regret if I think, oh, this isn't going to be great, and I go with that client, it's inevitably not a good relationship, and it's something I sort of come to resent. Unfortunately, it happens much less these days.
Yes.
And yet when you feel, wow, yes, these people get me, and this is, there's an amazing collaboration to be had, that's such a different feeling.
Yeah. And that was me in the corporate world, right? I could see those problems and I would push, or pull people in, or then I'd support people that were in their own way trying to push things forward. And it was just this constant like bumping up against a wall. And so, yeah, it's good case in point.
And it sounds, I mean, it sounds very mature and wise and pragmatic and easy when you describe it. So I wonder, what challenges have you come up against across the way? Did you ever doubt, oh my goodness, can I do this on my own? And you know, what were some of the hurdles along the way?
Yeah. Gosh, the imposter syndrome. I was just telling someone this story the other day. So the first time I went live on Facebook, you know, we had the whole house quiet. My husband has the dog in a different room. Like every variable is managed, and I finish, and I'm so proud of myself, right? And it's of course like terrible backdrop. I look at these videos that I still have up just to evidence my growth. But I come out of the room and I'm like, handsome. That's what I call my husband. Handsome, what did you think? And he's like, oh, I didn't listen to it. And I was just so pissed off, frankly. And really what I learned is that he sees myself like I need to see me, but it's the imposter syndrome. Like he already knows that I would have been great on live. He didn't need to watch that. And so sometimes fighting that imposter syndrome, I try to see myself through other people's eyes that see me and believe in me. And that's kind of my strategy to combat some of that. This year, I've done 13 keynotes, and it's just at the end of this 13th one that I am allowing myself to own my style. And I think when you try to fit in a mold of what you think things should be like, or you're trying to be someone that you emulate or that you really like admire, and then try to be like them, emulate their style, then it's just this inauthenticity that kind of happens. And you get in your head. Like, I think that just fuels the imposter beast. So I've definitely struggled with that. So my strategies are to see myself through someone else's eyes, and then just give myself permission to be me. Like in a keynote with hundreds of people, I'm polling the audience, I'm walking around the tables, I'm very informal. I'm not your polished like comedian on the stage. And just instead of trying to be that person, just going, no, this is my style. And appreciating that that's going to align for some conferences and it's not for others, and that's okay.
I love that so much. And I think it's so easy to, especially when we're starting out, we're looking to other experts and gurus. And then we think, oh, this is the model we have to copy. That's the business model. But also, oh, this is how you need to do your reels on Instagram. And this is how you need to post on LinkedIn. And we're constantly looking for the answer of how to do it. And actually, again, super reassuring, empowering. There is no right answer. The right answer is whatever you want to do, feels good to you, gets you the result that you want.
Yeah. And 100% of my business has been referral. Like none of it has come from social media or other things. Now, people do stalk me on social media to make sure that I'm legit, or they'll check out my website. They'll do other things, but there's some sort of referral, or they've met me in person, which is like the counter opposite of what the imposter should. Like, it's the antidote to the imposter thing, is just that fact that 100% of the business has been on referral. So imposter, go away. Like, I'm not trying to be anybody else. They want to work with me. It's me that they want. It's not me trying to be someone else. They don't want the other thing that I could be. They want me. And so just really doing some head talk. I've got a coach and an accountability group that just help me stay grounded. But there are times when I'm leaning into like new work and I'm going, I don't know if this is me. I don't know if I can do this. And then of course my husband will just like give your head a shake, right? Or other people will just chunk it down where I can sort of manage that head talk.
I love that. And to have a supportive partner is so, so valuable, isn't it? Someone who believes in you. And as you said, doesn't have to, that classic, like if you say, do I look fat in this? They don't need to look at you like, nope. They know the answer with that.
Yes.
It feels like that.
Yes.
But it's funny again how serendipitous the world is. I just spoke to someone earlier today who also said everything comes from referral and so on. But as you said, the reassurance someone gets, or a social proof sort of thing of going on to seeing like, oh, okay, I can see she's posted on LinkedIn and articles and so on. And of course, it's still a good way to get in front of people. And it's an important reminder to you. And I'm glad to hear that you say that of course, if people want to work with you again and they've heard you, that's that's sort of the net promoter score kind of dreamland of every business, right? If other people are recommending you, that means that you certainly do have a clear enough niche because they've clearly communicated your value, and it means that you're doing a really good job. So really important reminder, I think, man.
Yeah.
And so, funnily enough, yeah, you mentioned the speaking, and we talked offline before we started recording. You said, "Oh, these 17 or whatever it was keynotes just fell into my lap." So it sounds very easy. But so, in terms of
Yeah.
the business model, was it you're doing? You're speaking, you're training. What would talk
Yeah.
us through? Sort of, who do you work with? What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say 50% of my work is leadership development, and 25 is this new speaking thing that wasn't even on my website before I got asked to do the first keynote. And 25% is coaching. So I do a lot of stuff online. The keynotes recently have had me traveling a little more than I want to, but I probably go on site for the organizations I serve maybe once every 2 months on average. So there's not a lot of travel, which is great. I'd rather do everything 100% online. There's some value to being in person though sometimes.
Nice. And so I suppose during the last few years, you were doing a lot of online, I imagine, and now it's sort of come back into in person, or how has it been looking for you?
Yeah. So some of my first business client was in the rural Southern Illinois area. And they're still my client. In fact, I've been trying to graduate them. Like, you've got this. It's been, 5, 6 years. You know the skills. I can help your leaders, teach sort of incoming employees, but you've got this. And then they came back and asked me to do company-wide training that they, had a bit of financial impact from COVID. Who hasn't? And except for Amazon, who hasn't had that financial impact. And so they said, we need to, sort of cut back the consulting with you. And I said, good, like I've been trying to graduate you from me for years. And then they came back like a month later and said, actually, when we asked our team the most valuable work supporting them, it was Kerri Burchill. So please come and do company-wide training. So that's like first companies from the beginning in Southern Illinois. And some of those clients have stayed in that area. And we've just transitioned to do stuff online instead of me doing it in person. And then their network has sort of brought about other networks. So I think initially my first clients were in person because they met me doing day-to-day business stuff in the area. And now I live in San Antonio. I don't have a San Antonio client, which kills me. I'm just like desperate to have my backyard clientele, but I'm networking like a fiend. When I've done some Texas keynotes, I'm like vulnerably saying like, I want business in my backyard who's from San Antonio. So I think there was something around networking in person in the area where I lived. And then that sort of caught a little bit of fire and it grew from there. So I think that was the starting point. Because now that I've moved, I'm having a hard time like cracking into that here.
And that's the one thing about refer. I think we don't quite have the control over when people will refer and how much and to whom and so on. So I think when we do want a particular direction of the business, either into a new niche or geography and so on, obviously it helps to have a bit more of a systematic approach to go, okay, this is what, at least to send that out into the universe and say, hey, I'm here, San Antonio. I think I went to San Antonio when I was younger to the Six Flags. Is there Six Flags in San Antonio?
Yes, there is.
My aunt
awesome.
lives in Plano outside Dallas. I spent quite a few trips there as well. So
awesome. I love it. I hope it wasn't in the summer months because it is stinking hot right now.
Yes, I mean the contrast between the heat outside and the freezing cold aircon in the shops, in the malls and everything, I always confused me, but I didn't know
yes,
what to wear.
Me too. Internationally, I see every country doing that. It doesn't make sense to me either.
No, but I imagine we don't really have aircon here. Not that we need it, but perhaps with climate change we will do in the future, because when it does get hot here, we're all very much, we're in trouble. So I think you're still ahead of the game there.
Yeah, fair enough.
But coming to sort of personal brandings, I know you talk about referrals, but you are obviously on LinkedIn and Instagram. I just saw a couple of your posts. And you talk about sort of not really having a niche, but we do have a niche. So why are people recommending you? What is it you're doing? Like what do you stand for, I suppose? What is this contribution that you wanted to make? What are you giving back?
Yeah. So, when you think about messy dynamic situations, I really am about helping people slow down to figure it out. So I believe the answer is in the room. Like, leaders are the best ones to decide what they need to do moving forward because they're in the trench. So my analogy is, if I wake up in the morning and I feel really sick and I say to my partner, oh, I don't feel that good. And he says, are you going to go to work? Yeah, I'm going to go to work. And then I get at work and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need some medicine. So I go to a walk-in clinic. Of course, you can't get a same-day doctor appointment. And all of a sudden to this stranger, I'm like describing what's happening with my body, what I'm coughing up, all this detail that I would not share with my partner, right? And so in those messy situations, we tend to hide the real truth from people. But if you go see someone from the outside, you just bear it all. right? And so that's sort of my analogy. And I help people slow down to put words on what is working, what's not working, what do we need to adjust, and kind of help facilitate the slowing down work so that we can go fast and achieve those big results. So I have a plant that I'm working with, and they just got a new plant manager. And so they were doing the transition between leaders of continuing the work with me. And I said to the new leader that the old leader's invites on our coaching time said like slow down time with Kerri. And the new leader's like, oh yeah, I need that slow down time. Like, wow, it's, really crazy. And so I help people slow down and just figure out their own answers, because they do know they're in the trench, but in the fast pace speeding, they, just don't really get to what answers are. And so they just do like Band-Aid fixes. And then it's this unsustainable issue fix thing. So,
I mean, there's a powerful insight for not just organizations, for all of us, right? So again, I was just sharing with someone now with whatever, with business, with work, we're doing up a house and all sorts. There's very little time, especially for myself, initiated by myself, to slow down and go, oh, what is the big picture here? How shall I,
yes,
I want to be? And those are questions that are not getting asked, let alone answered right now, right? So to have someone external come in and go, okay, dedicated slow down time, what are you actually working towards? Who are you? What, all these questions. I think that's very parallel with the kind of work I do with clients, and in a different sense, but it's something I think we all really need.
Yeah. And I see, honestly, like post-COVID, that people are trying to do what worked before COVID even faster now, and just kind of calling out that, like, where's the space for innovation? Where's the slowdown to kind of acknowledge what are the pain points and what do we need to recognize some of that. So
and this is I'm very passionate about redefining productivity, and it's one of those things, as you said, after COVID, is this really what we want from our people? It's certainly not what we as employees want, just to do things faster. And now with the advent of AI, which is obviously accelerating very quickly as well, there is an opportunity, I think, to really rethink how we're doing work and how we're engaging employees, organizations, as leaders, and so on. So it's sort of a time of turmoil, but also really exciting to see, and hopefully we can play a small part in that revolution.
Yes, I would love to have a little ripple effect. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in practical terms, then, I know you said you're traveling a little bit more than you'd like to at the moment, and you're taking some time off in January, you said. But what does how many days a week are you working? How do you like to kind of plan your work? Are you very organized and schedule driven? Are you flexible? Talk us through sort of your ways of working.
Yeah, absolutely. So my partner's schedule, he works 11 days on and then gets a long weekend. So every other weekend, I try to take the Friday off. I wake up in the morning without an alarm, such a gift, and do a little bit of I'll wake up and just have like a cup of tea and do my morning routine, and then walk the dog. So my first meeting's at 9. And then sometimes I have, hours and hours of meetings a day. Today, it's you, and then I have some at 5 tonight. So I have this big break during the day. So I'll block that off when it just naturally happens and dive into a book that I'm writing. Sometimes I'll block time just to be able to work on PowerPoints that I'm building for different leadership teams, or do some of that think work. But in general, I'll travel once every 2 months for maybe 3 to 5 days. And other than that, I'm just I have a pretty wide open calendar. I say to people, access me all the time. If you text me, call, if I'm available, I'll take it. So I'm comfortable switching gears, jumping from frying pan to the fire, to the this, to the that. But I am protective of nothing starts until 9, and I try to wrap up my day at 5. Literally your mantra, right? 9 to 5, get out of that. But
get out of there. I know, but I love the creative way of looking at it, because funnily enough, when I was single and nomadic and I wanted freedom, and so when I first started, and when I met my partner, he had a 9 to 5 in London. So I actually sort of intentionally then crafted my work around that, back into Monday, Friday, 9 to 5, because otherwise I wouldn't see him evenings and weekends. And then, when I had a newborn baby, that then shifted things. Now we've moved out of London, that's shifted things, etc., etc. Now that my daughter's starting school, that shifts things. So some of it's driven by myself, some my partner, and so on. But it's so there's no sort of magic. At the moment I'm working a 3-day week. It's going to probably be a 4-day week in September. I love this. I had someone say they did what did they call it? Oh, I want to say, yeah, 9-day fortnight, I guess, a bit like you said. So you do it every other Friday off, which she thought worked really well because you're kind of around some Fridays, so nobody
Yeah.
really noticed, but you still
Yeah.
have the free day and you don't, there's just so, I think this is what's so interesting. There's so many frameworks, and the 9 to 5 is just a very outdated construct, whether we're working for
Yeah.
ourselves or in an
Yeah.
organization. It just doesn't
Yeah.
really, correspond to anyone's
Yeah.
reality, whether
No.
you're in the medical profession, whether you're a parent, whether you're aging, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to hear the different versions that exist.
Yeah. And I think that my schedule molds like you when you had a baby, you met your partner. My molds around my client needs. So Friday is a light meeting for clients. They generally just like want to get through their work and get out. And Mondays are the sort of drinking from the fire hose. So my Mondays are more of a planning day, and I'll try to take Fridays to do more of a thinking day. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, dive deep, go hard. Yeah, but I ran a marathon last December. I would, I block off mornings to do long runs or just different kind of exercise. So just, yeah, I mean, it's the flexibility, right? It's my schedule. I decide. It's like, cool. We have a bunch. I think we have 4 or 5 long day weekends, September, October, November, January. I'm taking a couple weeks off. So yeah, just that I don't have to beg anyone to give me hours back. I don't have to ask permission to get time off. And we've been on holidays where I've done like a keynote for 150 people, like virtual. I was the only virtual one. Everybody else was in a big ballroom at a university campus. And it's just like, oh, let me just dip out of the pool, quickly do my hair, jump on, and then finish up. Oh, let me go back in the pool, right? Just like, how cool is that?
That's so cool. And I love how you just casually dropped in that you've run a marathon as well. So it definitely sounds like you've got some good balance there, in and out of the pool, running, training a lot of hours for a marathon. I've not managed a full marathon, so that's fantastic. What else did you, other sort of hobbies and things? How else do you play in the week apart from, the work and exercise?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm a sleep hog. We go to bed at like 8 or 9, and probably read for an hour of just whatever stuff. So during the week, we have a great neighborhood. I can't say enough about my neighbors and how awesome they are. So we'll connect at the local watering hole, or walk our dogs together, or just, I don't know, have spontaneous dinners together, just kind of like potluck, throw stuff together. Yeah.
Well, it sounds very, I was going to say zen, but it sounds like you're very clear and confident, and you're doing work that works for the clients, but you're also doing it on your own terms. It sounds like you've created something really, really great. And what's next for you now, Kerri? What are you working towards in the coming months and years?
I just do feel so lucky. Yeah, and this is where the imposter can sneak in, right? Because July, August is just slower for my clients, and then I can think, oh, I don't have new ones. Oh, what, and just no, it's gonna. If I keep serving, it will keep growing. Like, I just know that, right? That's been the mantra. So, future, I have leaned into the speaking thing a little more than I had planned, which is great. But I am increasing my price because I don't want to just do it as much as I was. I mean, I had some days where I'm like 4 days, 6 flights, 2 different places, just crazy. That's not fun. So probably some more speaking, but in more select areas. And then I'm publishing this book leading out of the ASKhole trap, ASK. That should be on the stands late December. And I think that will drum up some other opportunities. So yeah, well, again, if you're open, so I didn't tell you this backstory. I have this other saying, if you're open, you'll see it, which came from my grandmother who turns 104 this month, and her boyfriend who said his sort of life advice was, if you're open, you'll see it. So I have the book, I have some speaking, obviously the ongoing work with clients. I don't know where that work is going to take me, but I know if I'm open, I'll see it.
Oh, I love that. That's such a beautiful, succinct way to put it. And how old is the boyfriend? Is he also old and wise, or is it a younger gentleman?
He passed away in 99, I think. Yeah, grandma. Bless her. She was with him. It was not fun. But they were out walking, going to the local coffee shop, just cool.
Yeah.
I guess when you're that old, you're just used to people dying on you, but grandma's a trooper for sure.
She's amazing. And the book, of course, will be an amazing business card and credibility builder on top of what you have. So expect some more speaking there, Kerri. I'm afraid you might have to do some more speaking there with the book coming as well. But that's super exciting. What an achievement.
Thank you.
So we'll link to that in due course when it comes. But where can we find you in the meantime?
Yep. KerriBurchill.com. KerriBurchill.com.
Love it.
You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. And I have weekly emails if anybody's interested in signing up for that stuff, or of course, contracting with me to slow down to go fast.
Perfect pitch. Thank you so much, Kerri, for sharing so graciously, and congratulations on everything you built. Here's to the next phase of your successful journey.
Yep, for both of us, Anna, for sure.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
If you'd like to create your own transition story and escape the 9-to-5 to work for yourself, then come and join us over in the Business Incubator. This is a comprehensive online program and community designed to give you the roadmap that you need to help you figure out what you really want to do, come up with a workable plan, and take the right steps to achieve it. Read more and join us over on onestepoutside.com/9-to-5. That's onestepoutside.com/9-to-5.